Hi there everyone, welcome back to Dandelion Delphi. Today we're going to look at the supplementary paper of 2019 question 1. So at the end of the year, grade 10s will be able to do all these questions, but this would be very good practice for both 11s and 12s. So let's have a look at question 1.1. It's 4 very easy marks. Make sure that your random number that you are generating includes both 100 and 120, as you can see from the inclusive in the brackets. So if you are using random range, remember that this argument here must be one higher than the range that we want to select a random number from. And I've just stored it as an integer and display it in my edit box, and this should be 4 very easy marks for you. Remember, to use random range, you must always make sure that math is added to the uses of your program. This is now question 1.2, and a little tip: the moment that you see something like this where we have a table with different options or maybe even bullet points, this really indicates to me that I'm going to use either a case statement or a nested if. Now, I usually go for the case statement because I just find it a lot cleaner to code in, but I can only use that if the range or the variable that I'm testing is either integer or char, because remember, case statements only use ordinal values. So I will show you both solutions, but this is a tip for you, and now you can try. Let me scroll down so you guys can see the rest of the question. Very important is that when you're testing your program, that you use all the test data here. Everyone will give you a different output and will test a different part of that nested if or case statement of yours. And also take note of the wording that says that the value must be rounded up. Rounding up does not mean using round. We have to round the value up to the closest integer. Here's an example of output for you, so press pause and try it yourself. So first we need to get the number of participants, and make sure that you store it as an integer number because the participants can't be 1.5 person. So therefore I am storing it as an integer because that will allow me then to use this variable in a case statement as I've done. So for the first range it was 0 to 20. So in the number of participants less or equal to 20. Since we're not asked to validate the input from the user, we may assume that they won't enter any negative values. So here is my range from 0 to 20 and multiplying 2.5 by the number of participants to calculate the minutes that we need. The next range was 21 to 50, and that's what I've done in here. And then 2.3 was the number of minutes that I need to use. But if I'm using a case statement, I can't say greater than 50. Instead, I should use the optional else here in my case statement. So if it's not a value from 0 to 20 or 21 to 50, it will then run this code inside the else. Note that this else does have a semicolon before it. Remember, when we use an else in an if statement, the single line above the else does not have a semicolon. This case statement will now run this code for any value where I number is higher than 50. Using the nested if option, your code would look like this. And at the top here, I am testing if the number of participants is less or equal to 20. Remember, 20 was included, so that equal sign is important. If it is, this code here would run. And if it is not, it would go to the else of this if statement. And it will test then if the number is less or equal to 50. Now you'll see that I've excluded the fact that I number is greater than 20 because this code here would only run if the number is greater than 20. Your nested if statement would only execute either the true or the false part of every if. If there were, for example, 5 students, then this line here would be executed and all of this would be ignored and the output would be displayed. If the number was 21, then this line here, the if statement, will be executed, and that would be true. The number here, 21, is less or equal to 50, and therefore we will multiply 2.3 with the number of participants and store that as our minutes. After this else, I have not added another if statement to say if the number was greater than 50, because when it runs this code here, the number would be greater than 50. Any number below 20, this line will be executed. A number from 21 to 50, this line will be executed. And any other number, in other words, any number above 50, this line here would be executed. It's not wrong to add the if statement here, but you guys often make a mistake there. And in that way, you often lose marks for adding extra code that was not needed. You would not lose the marks because you added the extra if statement. You would only lose it if you make a mistake in that if statement. This is really the simplest way to use our nested if statements. So then we display our output. We had to display the minutes with the decimal values before we rounded up. And remember the function ceil. Ceil will round the value up to the closest integer. So it will make 41.2, it will make 42. And then if you are using my method, I'm just overwriting our minutes because I'm done with it here. I've displayed the one with the decimals. So I'm just overwriting it there with my rounded up value. Then it's important to make sure if you're using floater string f that you're not displaying any decimal values. Also remember that ceil is also in the math unit, so you need to add the math to the uses of your program. This is question 1.3, and I'm sure you guys have done the factorial of a number, but it is also explained in here. So if I have a number like 4, I have to multiply the numbers 1 to 4 with each other and get the answer, and that would be the factorial. Here's the rest of the question. And it is actually a very short program. I'm going to show you the memo soon, so press pause and try it yourself. So here I have the input from the user for the spin edit. And very important is I have initialized ions to 1. I'll get back to the y just now. I could start here at 1, that won't make a difference, but in my solution I'm just multiplying from 2, because remember 1 times any number is the same answer, so there's no point in multiplying with 1. And I'm looping all the way to the number entered by the user. So this is almost like a running total where I multiply the answer that I had before with my loop variable. So let's just take an example of the input from the user being 6. I am setting ions to 1. So now I'm multiplying 1 with 2, as in this example here. So my answer for ions is 2. Next time I'm looping, my answer there is 2, and I'm multiplying it with the next k, which would be 3, and my answer is 6. Next time I'm looping, ions is 6, and I'm multiplying it with 4, and then my answer is 24. And so it will continue until the k it reaches 6. Now remember I said before, when a variable is on both sides of the assignment statement, we need to initialize it. And when there's a loop, we will initialize this variable directly above the loop. Now in the past, you guys have used 0 to use a running total. But imagine I made ion 0. I would be multiplying 0 with a value. My answer will always be 0. For that reason, I have changed this to 1. And I'm multiplying 1 with my k. Remember, if I multiply any number with 1, it's not going to make a change to it. A very good practice exercise is to write your own power function. We have the power function also in the math unit that takes a number to the power of another number, and it is a very good exercise, very similar to this question here, to calculate that answer. And then right at the end here, I'm just displaying this answer in the edit box, EDT factorial. Now the last question here is dealing with some string handling. So you have to read carefully. You're not just reversing the sentence. That would be very easy. You are finding each word and reversing each word. Before you try this though, I'm going to take you guys to my book and let's quickly have a look at just revising some of the string functions that we have. So the length function is often used when we're looping through a string, and that is what we'll use today as well. The length function is used in my for loop from 1 to the length of the string, but it's also often used for validation to check if a number like an ID number or a cell phone number is the correct length. Important that you save those numbers as strings and not as integer values, because we're not really interested in the number as an integer value. And also if the number starts with a 0, that 0 will be dropped and you will have a different number stored. So then we have the functions uppercase and upcase. Uppercase we're going to use with strings and upcase we're going to use with chars. Now it is possible to put a char inside of uppercase in the brackets, but the problem with that is it changes the data type of that char to a string data type. And then we won't be able to use that variable anymore in our structures that need ordinal values like a case statement or a for loop or an in operator. So for that reason, it's important to use upcase with my char data types, because that will keep the data type as a char. Then we also have the lowercase function, and we can send it either a string or a char. It always returns a string, and there's no alternative for using lowercase to return a char data type. One solution would be to add square brackets 1 to the end. Then we have the odd and what I call the char function. I call it the char function because you guys get confused between char the data type and char the function, because char the function will take a number and return for you the corresponding character from the ASCII table. So if we have a look here, let's say 101 was stored in a variable, and in brackets I put this variable with the char function. It will then return for me E, because E's corresponding ASCII value is 101. And OR does just the opposite. You need to send it a char data type, and then it will return for you the ASCII value of that character. One function that you guys often get wrong or use incorrectly is the copy function. Even though it's producing the correct output, you are not necessarily using this correctly. The first two arguments you guys usually get right. So this is the string that I'm sending it, and I want to copy from that string, and X is the position from where I am copying from. But the Y is the part that you guys get wrong. Y is not up to where I want to copy. It's how many characters I want to copy, starting at X. So if I look at something like a string that says I know IT rules, and I want to copy from 3 for 4 characters, I am copying out the no. So it's 1, 2, 3, that's where I start, and I'm copying out 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. If you are saying incorrectly that the copy function wants to copy from there to there, I would only be copying out 2 characters. So take note of that and make sure that you always use the right argument for the last argument of the copy function. Then we have the pos function that we've used quite a lot in the previous videos, and I'm looking for a substring in another string. So if I'm looking for am in I am taking IT, it will find and return for me the position of where the A of am was found. So that would be position 3. Remember that pos is case sensitive, so if I'm looking for IT in I'm taking IT, it will return a 0 because the lowercase it does not exist in this sentence. And then we also can use a single character, and we can find a single character in a sentence, it will find the first one. So if I have another B later on, it will find for me the first character. And that would be position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then these two functions that I haven't really used much, but I do think they are quite useful. If I send it's suc and pred, so successor and predecessor. If I send it a character, like in the example you have the variable contained a B, it will then return a C, so the next character in my ASCII table. For predecessor, it will just do the opposite, so if I send it a B, it will then return an A. And then we have the insert function, and this is where the string we want to insert into the second argument string, and then X is the position at where we're going to insert this into. Very important is that your middle argument has to be a variable, because that's the variable that is changing inside of this procedure. So if I wanted to insert LLO, or I have LLO, and I want to insert HE at position 1, after this line, my string variable will say hello. And finally, we have the delete procedure. Again, it's important that the string, the first argument, is always a variable, because that is the string that holds the value that's going to change. And the next two arguments are similar to the copy function. Here we are telling the procedure to delete from this character for this many characters. So again, it's not up to this character, but it is from this position for so many characters. So if I'm going to delete 3 characters starting at position 6, I am going to end up with my string like this, because I have started at character number 6, which is the N, and I'm deleting the NOT, the 3 characters. So let's have a look here at question 1.4. There is the input from the user for my sentence, and I have added a space at the end. The reason I'm doing it is that I want to find words, and the way to find words is by searching for spaces. When the user is adding a sentence, they are not going to put a space at the end of my sentence. And in order for me to find the last word, I'm just adding a space there, because you'll see in my code here, I'm searching for spaces. Now my SNew is going to contain the new sentence, and SWord is going to copy out each word and then reverse it and then add it to SNew. So I'm starting with an empty string. I'm looping from 1 to the length of the sentence, and then I'm adding each character to my sentence. So here I am adding my character, and then I test if the character I've added just now is a space. I then want to reverse that word. But remember, you don't want to reverse with the space, else your sentence will start with a space. So that's why I'm starting here with my inner loop from the length of the word -1, so that I exclude that space. Then I reverse the word that I have by adding it to my new sentence that contains the reversed words, and I'm just adding every character backwards using my down to. And then when I'm done with that, I add now a space after this reversed word. Important now is that you initialize this S word again, because you will now want to find, if I was finding the, I now want to find cat, so I need to clear it with a the, and then I will loop again and add CAT and the space, and then I will reverse the word and add it to my new sentence. At the end, all I have to do is I need to display SNew in my edit box. And that was it. Thank you for watching Dandelion Delphi tutorials. And for more preparation for question 1, you can have a look at my book 1. Hope to see you soon.